think I put my hat on then. It's midnight time, man. Patrick here, and this is it. Don't think I put my hat on for the previous take. This is it. I'm about to talk about my Guns N' Roses story, and I filmed this footage a while ago. I filmed this for about 8 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. I filmed this. I've been doing so much in the last 4 weeks. This is the intro. I'm about to talk about my Guns N' Roses record. I'm about to talk about my Guns N' Roses record, okay? And originally this video was intended for something. It was intended for something else. I'm just putting this intro on, okay? It's December 31st, 2021. I did no filming today at all, but it was just partly on my mind. This is just an intro. I'm tired, I'm exhausted. Anyway, but this is my Guns N' Roses story. Okay. Yeah. I thought I'd tell a story. Hello. Yes. Okay, so this record here is very personal to me. I bought this in about 1993. I just think of saying, okay, cool in here. One moment. Oh, sorry. I bought this record in about 1992. I think it was about 1992. I went into the city one day. Let's make a good look at that. Look at it. It's a little bit of anger in there because of what happened. And this is from Terminator 2, You Could Be Mine. And on the back it has Civil War. Does it? Yes, it does. It's the B-side of Civil War. This is You Could Be Mine. Now, I went into the city one day in 1992, and I saw it there. I can't remember where I saw it. I can't remember if it was Ashwoods or if it was in Brashes. I'm not entirely certain. I bought it. It was about 25 bucks. So I'm going to get that, and I got it. And I was quite ecstatic about it. I was very proud of it. And took it home, and I told Richie, and Richie's like, "Oh, that's incredible! Preserve that, keep that." And so we get to a few, and so I've got it in my collection. Fast forward to an evening in 2008 at the Petersham house. Tia's joint Petersham, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd all been drinking. Chris was there. Chris was there. There's maybe about 6 or 7 of us in the lounge room, and we were drinking. And I started talking about that, and my history of it, and it was Chris's birthday was coming up. Probably see what it's leading to. And Chris said, "I want it," and without hesitation said, "It's yours." And it all extended from, I was watching a few documentaries about Frank Sinatra, and Frank Sinatra had this habit of when someone said, "You have a really nice tie," he'd take his tie off and he'd give it to them. Or someone would say, "Hey, those are really nice cuffs, the little buckles you've got in your cuff," he'd take them off and give it to them. And so at some point I attempted to, actually, in fact, I should put this on, not right now, but I've given away a few of these. I've wore these throughout the years. I used to get these from Paddy's Markets, but you can't get them from there anymore. They're about $5, but they don't have them. It was back in the good old days, back in 2012. But the store's gone. Oh, the store's not gone now. They've just got different things in there. I've given about 4 of these away. Coming out of Kelly's, on the King Street. Walking, midnight or 1 AM or whatever, and talking to someone who says, like, "I really like your bandana with stars. It's beautiful. I love it." And I take it off and give it to them. Knowing that I could get out of Paddy's Market the next day and buy a new one. And so the lounge room that evening, I can't remember who was there, and Chris said, "I want it," and I said, "It's yours." Without hesitation I said, "It's yours." And what happened was I think what really I should have done that night was when he said, I would have said, I should have said, fuck you, you're not having it. I should have said, he said, I should have excuse me, or I should have just ignored him, but I should have just said, no, I like it. And it might have been a bit of I was like, well, you know, why would you say I want it? Like, isn't that a bit? It's a bit like if someone talks about something, would you just say I want it? Because that would be considered a bit bloody rude. And I just said yeah. The night came he had his birthday at the Marlborough Hotel, and there was a lot of people there that night, just in general, and all of us, we turned up to it. I went along and I gullibly took this. I still haven't received it back, but I'll get to that part. And there was a bit, I still got a little bit of anger about it, just when how gullible I was. Never actually got it back. Now, went along that night, took it, went upstairs. There was so many people that was packed. This was 2008. Somewhere around 2008. I was living at Maryland at the time, I'm certain. I'm very certain of this. Like, I was living at Maryland still. Went upstairs, got to where they were, their vicinity. There's so many people around that night. And I made my way over to the table where Chris was, and Jonathan, he was a friend of his, his buddy, and who didn't respect me. And the others were there. Sky was there, Kimberly was there, Tia was there, Brad and I was very close to Brad. We were there. And I think I got over to the table and handed it to him and said, happy birthday. This is yours. And the universe said, don't do this. No. Bad idea. Bad idea. Gave it to him. No thanks. No really. I think he went, oh thanks. And I walked away. So he'd say, come up, sit at the table, come on. And blah, blah, blah. But I'm really naive with the fact I think he's going to say that to me, come on, sit at the table. Like, what naive world am I living in? Not playing with a full deck of cards that night, Pat. Left the table. 10 minutes later, Jonathan, his guy, his buddy, comes up, and I shot Jonathan a few looks a few times. I stood up to him a couple of times. Jonathan, he said, don't look at me like that. Because I was like, don't look at me like that. Don't do it, Pat. Don't look at me like that. And a couple of minutes later, about 10 minutes later, Jonathan comes up to me and he says, what you just did. What you just did for him. On the shoulder, went on, you're in. You're cool. And I'm like, I know I'm cool. He said, what you did for him. And I'm thinking, well, at this point, Bill, like now, like you'd be saying, come over to the table, come over to the table. He said, what you just did. And then he walked away. I'm like, okay. And then I'm not certain, but I think Kimberly might come up to me at this point and said, did you just give me that record? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay. I told Frank wasn't there that night. Frank had a better mind about himself at the time. Frank had a bit more common sense than to hang around the crowd at that point. And I think maybe a week later or a few days later I would have said, oh, a while later, I can't remember the time span, maybe a month. Wouldn't have been more than I said, I said to Frank one day, I gave him the Could Be Mine glass, 7-inch. He's like, what? I said, Chris, for his birthday. I gave it to him. He's like, what? He said, you give him that? I said, I gave him. He's like, what the f? He's like, fuck, what are you giving him, a smack in the head rather than that? And I'm like, you gave him that? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't fucking give him nothing. Give him a clip across the ear. Frank's not a violent person. Just saying. When you say stuff like that, you say, but you don't really mean it. He's like, tell him to fuck off. and you know, he's like, gave him that. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I never really received a word of thanks about it. He never came up to me personally and said, Pat, thanks. Oh my gosh, Pat, thank you, thanks so much, thanks. Like, thanks. Nothing, not a ditto. And after that, I really didn't speak to him much after that. I played the fool for a while. Now, it all gets hazy because we kind of all started to go our separate ways at one point, gradually. It wasn't like a sudden thing, it was gradual. And it turns out, you know, I heard through the grapevine, because we all hear things through the grapevine, and through the grapevine I heard that Chris started getting mixed up with the wrong crowd. And, he got mixed up, he started hanging out. I heard so I said, yeah, have you seen Chris? And they said, no, he started just into bad shit. We're not having anything to do with him. I'm like, oh, okay. And they said, yeah, he's getting mixed up with some wrong people, don't want nothing to do with that. And that's what happened with that. And then a year later, about the Wicks Avenue time, or it's actually been a, wow, that's pretty bright, huh? I could knock anyone out. Okay, it's been it's actually been a couple of hours, and there's a bit of relief. It's been a couple of hours since I filmed part 1 and I came around in memory, but I remember exactly where I was at. What happened? Okay. So this, to continue the story, that Chris was, I think he must have, look, I don't know, I think he was doing some pretty bad stuff. And I had no contact with him, and the people that I knew that knew him were starting to not have any contact with him at all. And then we get, so that's around about 2013 or so. We get over to 2019, and occasionally, about once a year, so I get the Petersham. Oh, that's right, I get the Petersham. And around about 2014, I'm like, oh, my Guns N' Roses, mate, you could be mine, my glass, my plastic. I don't know if it's glass or plastic. This is plastic. This is plastic. I thought, I gave it to Chris. Idiot. What did I do that for? And I was like, I was really starting to be resentful about it and get angry about it. I'm like, wow. Really angry about that. And then what happened? Well, you think about it about once a year, and I looked it up online. I remember looking it up online in about 2017 on eBay. I went to eBay, looked it up. I thought, I'll buy it back and pretend it didn't happen. I looked it up, it was about $90. I'm like, it makes sense over the years that it's gone up in price. Collector's item. I thought, no, this is not right now. Around about 2019, when I was housing at Glebe, because we house at Glebe occasionally, I went to Newtown one night. I went to the townie one night for something. Went there one night and I saw Chris. I saw him. I thought, you know what? I'm going to confront him. I'm just going to do it. I went up to him and I said, Chris. I said, hi. He looked at me with these dead eyes. He had these dead eyes, and he actually had seen me before that. Because when I walked in, we'd made eye contact, but it was almost like he was looking right through me. Seriously, he looked like he was on meth or something. I don't know what it was. He didn't look well. It looked like a skeleton of his former self. And I went up to him and said, Chris, hi. He went, hi. I went, how are you doing? I said, I cut to the chase. I said, my Guns N' Roses, You Could Be Mine, the plastic record, the You Could Be Mine, I imparted to you some years back. I said, do you have it? He said, did you give me something? And I'm like, I said, the Guns N' Roses, You Could Be Mine, 12-inch single. So I gave it to you. And he said, oh, yeah, I don't own anything anymore. I had no sympathy for him in the moment. I had no sympathy for him. And I was just like, and I didn't even try to save face. I sighed heavily. I went, and he just went, just like, and I remember, I don't remember if I said anything else. And I walked away. It turned my, oh, that's what I was gonna say. Usually, and I mean, when you impart something onto someone, you know, when you give something to someone, usually it's very not appropriate or in good courtesy. It's disrespectful to ask for it back. Like, oh, can I have that back? Although over the years, a couple of my friends have said, Pat, is this yours? I'm like, oh, it is. I said, I gave that to you. They said, look, you have it back. Yeah, I said, you sure? They said, yeah, look, I've had it for a long time. You have it back. Yeah, and I've had that happen a couple of times. They're like, Pat, it's yours. You take it. That's all right. That's okay. In this particular situation, well, he didn't respect me. I didn't respect him. Null and void. And I asked for it, I'm going to ask for this back. And so after that interaction, the exchange of words, I headed to the bar. I walked away from him, I turned my back to him, and I consider that disrespectful when I was just so angry. I do consider that the level of disrespect that I had for him. Just, we're reaching low levels here. And turned my back towards him, and I must have walked to the bar. And I'm thinking, right, either two things are going to happen. He's going to come up to me and say, don't you turn your back to me, or I don't know. And I'm like, be strong, Pat. I'm like, be strong. Nothing happened. And eventually I looked this way, and it was over there, but he wasn't looking at me. And I don't remember if I bought a beer or what I did. Maybe I did. There was no more interaction between us. None. I gave him a couple of hard looks briefly, like a couple of hard looks. He was like a ghost. And so there was something else. I'm going to throw this in very quickly because a few years before that, at some point in 2014, I bumped into Chris. At the town again one night. It was about 2 AM. I wasn't drinking this time. I wasn't drinking at this point. And it was in the back part of the town. And I saw him. I said, oh, hey Chris, how you going? At this point, I'd already started to lose respect for him. I wasn't like, hey man, how you doing? Hey. When I see someone I haven't seen for a while, I'm like, hey. I was like, hey Chris, how you doing? He's like, Pat. I was like, Pat. And he said, come here. And he said, you're good. I was like, yeah, I'm good. He said, no, you're good. You're good. He said, something was mentioned about drinking. He said, you got a beer? I said, I'm not drinking at the moment. No, that's good, it's good. He was really drunk. Not judging, just he was really drunk. And I hadn't had a beer in maybe a year and a half. And he said, I said, I just haven't had a drink for a while. I haven't had a drink for well over a year. So I haven't had a drink for a year. And he said, you're good. He said, you're good. You're on the top level. I'm like, okay. And he said, you're in. You're in. Okay, you're in. I'm like, okay. I didn't try to save face. I went, okay. And he said, do you know what that means? I said, no. And then he said, it means you're in. He said, it means one day, he said, what we're going to do, we're going to have a beer, and we're going to smoke a joint. We're going to do a joint. And I said, oh, I've got bad lungs, I can't do that stuff. I actually really can't do it. I've got bad lungs. And that's why every now and again I have it. But I can smoke a cigar, but I can't inhale. I love the smell of cigars, but I'm off tracking. And he said, soon, my place, beers, cones, because they call them cones, the bongs. And I said, my lungs, can't do it. He said, my place, soon, beers. And at that point, I think I got a bit frustrated by the whole thing. I said, gotta go. And he went, have you tried to stop me or something? And I said, take care of yourself, okay? He said, but remember, you're cool. I'm like, I know I am. Yes, okay, Chris, all right, okay. I don't think I said that to him, but I said, okay, all right, and I gotta go. That was the last I spoke to him, and that really infuriated me. And now, about 2020, I put a post up on Facebook. I found a picture of this online because I just decided, I think it was after that interaction where I confronted him about the record. I went back home to where we were house sitting, and I related it on the wall, on the Facebook wall. I related the. I'll make sure I'm recording. Sorry, just want to make sure I'm recording. Okay, I'm recording. Okay, so I related the interaction online, what happened, and so I was very upset about my Guns N' Roses You Could Be Mine, and I put up a picture of it, described the situation, said what happened. Now there's a few people who know this guy, and I didn't actually. I said I could very easily mention this guy's name, but I actually didn't mention his name at the time. There are a few people that were on my list, including a few people, including one other person who's a very good guy. He is a good guy. He's full of love. He's a very assertive guy. Always treated me well. His name is Richie. It's two Richies. One that's not really a part of the scene, but off track. He was in the room that night. I put my post up. A couple of few responses. One from Roxy, who said, who's actually Richie's partner, and she's quite prominent on the rock and roll scene, and she has spent many hours of interaction with him because Richie and Chris were friends. As Richie would later say, we had a weird friendship. Don't even know what I was doing. It was just a weird friendship. They used to muck around a lot and all that, like, jokes and stuff, and they were close. And Roxy was amid this, and she said, if anyone tries to bring that guy back into my life, this guy back, I will oppose them and never speak to them again. She said, I'm sorry for the loss of your record. I'm sorry that happened to you. I will not have anything to do with that guy ever again, and if anyone tries to bring him to me, it's just finished with them. And Richie said, oh man, he said, if I could go back in time somehow and just stop that from happening, I would, man. I would just go back in time for you and get that record. And so what happened, Rain, who Michelle's good, Michelle considers Rain a sister, Rain considers Michelle a sister. Rain have known each other for many years, and I know Rain well as well, because Rain was previously married to a good friend of mine. They're now divorced, separated. She read the post. She saw it. So my birthday comes around, and oh, that's right. I went back on eBay. Looked up this record, $95 on eBay. I thought, if I buy it and just pretend none of that happened. And I'm like, yeah, but then it's going to remind me of that. I want it to be like passionate. I want it to be special. I want it to, like, when this gets returned to, I want to either this to be returned to me, or for it to be special the way it comes back to me. Like, I'm talking to someone in the pub or something, I'm saying, and they say, you could be mine, the glass thing, the Terminator 2. I'm like, yeah, and they're going to say, I picked that up from someone a few years back now. It could be yours. Anyway, so I didn't get it off eBay. My birthday came around. Michelle said, Rain's got something for you. She bought you something. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, cool. It arrived late in the mail. It didn't bother me. I don't worry about that. Michelle said, I think you're trying to play. I'm not fussed about presents. I just, yeah. It arrived in the mail. I don't know, about 3 weeks after my birthday. As I said, I'm not concerned about this. I'm not like that. I'm like, oh, well, it has to be here on time. I just, arrived in the mail. And that's right, because we went to see her at Central Coast. We drove up there. And, but anyway, I'll get to that. Get the record. I open it. Show Michelle what it is, like, because I have my eyes closed. I'm like, and Michelle's like, oh, because she had never seen it. Like, never seen it. I just described it to her once or twice. She's like, oh. And then I closed my eyes, closed my eyes, and I went, hang on, holding the record this way, didn't want to drop it, so and I went, oh, I'm like, oh, everything just stopped. I'm like, oh, and I told Michelle the story. I reminded her that I'd relayed the story to her before, and then I saw a flashing. Oh, there's the reflection on, like something happened in the camera. I had a moment. It was all surreal. It had come back to me. It had come back to me in a wonderful way. And all I could think was that maybe Rain had seen the post. I got on the phone to Rain the following night. Called her up on the. Actually, called her up through Facebook. I think, not through Michelle's Facebook. And little did I know there could be a video thing, so it was an actual video, but I didn't know it was video, so I was totally phone to my ear the whole time and spoke for about an hour and a half. Thanked her profusely. And she said, I saw the post. And I relayed the story back again. I said, I was going to text you, but it's just so much easier to call. And I said, oh, she said, I saw the post. I saw it. So, and she's like, I don't know if I included a picture. Oh, I didn't include a picture on the post. I just described it. She said, that's right. But she said, the way you described it, it was pretty good. And she said, so I looked it up. And she said, I exchanged a few messages with the owner, like asking about different, asking about it, and they gave me, so we exchanged a few messages, and she's like, yeah, I will get it. I'm going to get it. Okay, so, there is a back piece to it. It's upstairs. I should have brought that down. I was like, is there something else missing from here? There's a back piece. There's an actual back piece. Everything's exactly the same. Everything's the same. But I think there's a code, and I didn't have a code on my original, so there's a code on it. I should go upstairs and get the back piece. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go upstairs and get the back piece, and I'll slice it in. Yeah. On the phone, I thanked her profusely. And, yeah, and she said, oh, she said, I got to get it for you. She said, I read that. She said, I saw the Facebook post. She said, you know what? She said, I'm going to do that for you. And so it is very special now, very special. And I'm holding on to this. I'm holding on to this. I looked at it. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, I'm 20 years old again. Oh, I'm 20 years old again and holding this. Because I look at it from time to time throughout the years. I look at it because I kept it with all my other records. And from time to time, I pull it out and I look at it. And I don't know if I played mine once. This hasn't never. Or I don't know this has never been played. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if I ever will. I got it back. Got it back. Oh, I got it back. I got it back. And so yeah. Oh my gosh, I got it back. big, and I felt very, I felt, it was a special feeling, it was a tingly feeling, it was like, oh, okay. Oh, and I thought, I felt knew it was a record. I thought, oh, this could be, rain. I should never assume anything. I thought, oh, maybe Rain's bought me Usual Illusion 1. I thought, oh, Guns N' Roses. So, because everyone kind of knows me as Guns N' Roses. Even though I listen to black metal and death metal, but I used to be fixated by Guns N' Roses. And so people kind of know me for Guns N' Roses. Yeah, back then. And I thought, oh, this is Guns N' Roses, and when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, oh. I just had this moment, I'm like, I moved for like a minute, I'm just like, oh. So yes, this is the, I'm going to get the back piece. I'll go upstairs and I'll slice it in. I'll take it out. I will find that the back piece is upstairs. Yes. I've got a very low battery. I went upstairs. Oh, light, need light. Oh! Now, this is the back piece. This is the back piece. The front piece. There's a serial code on it. This code here. Now my copy didn't have this code on it. My copy, I don't remember recalling it having a code. And I think this came from the UK. I'm not sure where this came from. Oh, I do have my glasses down here, but I don't think it'll say on this. If I can get them undone, and the battery's about to run out, Pat. 1991. No, doesn't say where this copy ended up. They make a certain amount of them, and then they end up in all different parts of the world. So